I'm with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm the Vice President of Business Advocacy and Development. And I'd like to welcome you all here this morning. Sherry Minor-McNamara, President and CEO, apologizes for not being here this morning, but had another event. How many of you are Chamber members, real quick? Okay, good, thank you. Just really quick about the Chamber of Commerce. We are the state's largest business organization. We have over 1,000 members that employ over 200,000 employees. We have most of the largest companies in the state, but about 80–85% of our membership have less than 25 employees. So by far, we are a small business organization. About 2 years ago, we started a Manufacturing in Hawaii initiative. And one of the people here, and he's also on our board, Jimmy Chan, or Jimmy, raise your hand. He's on our board of directors and is with founder of Hawaiian Chip Company. Also is Bernie Coleman. He is the chair of our initiative and helped start it 2 years ago. Raise your hand. Brian works for Pac Ally. So 2 years ago, some manufacturing companies with some of our other members came together and said, you know, there's a big manufacturing industry in Hawaii, or a made in Hawaii industry. We actually have over 700 companies in the state. If you include the part-time people who do crafts and other shows, it's closer to 1,200. So there is a large, quote-unquote, making group in Hawaii. I think sometimes we think manufacturing, we think of smokestacks and things of that nature. We make a lot of things here. So 2 years ago, we started an initiative with Innovate Hawaii to help the industry. And Wayne is going to talk a little bit about what they do as an organization. Why we're all here. So last year, the Chamber, as part of the working group, initiated, drafted, and helped pass with many of your support, a manufacturing grant bill to help manufacturers. We're successful in getting $2 million. It's good for 1 year. We have several bills in this year to continue it on to next year. And again, Wayne and Len will talk about that. But you know, we do send out emails. If you know your legislator where you live, you know, please reach out to them and say, you know, you support the program. Because we think that manufacturing in Hawaii is a strong industry and an industry where a lot of growth can occur. One more point, and this is from the Chamber's perspective, and again, Wayne and Len are going to talk more about from the official agency side of the perspective on the grant, is when we set out to do it, we wanted to try and help the industry as much as possible. I don't sit on the grant review committee, but having done grant review and application review before, you know, part of it is up to you to ask for what you're looking for and also make your case. Be reasonable, don't ask for, things that may not be as part of the grant, but also at the same time, don't feel like you're restricted as well. You know, let the committee decide and tell you no. But I think a lot of people, that's what today is for, is a lot of Q&A and for you to ask some questions. But again, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for, you know, what you do in your business, because we think it's an important part of Hawaii's economy. So thank you. I will turn it over. Oh, real quick, yes. So this is the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii Manufacturers Portal. And it's in part with Innovate Hawaii and EDA. EDA is Economic Development Association Administration, which is part of the federal government. They help us put it together along with our other sponsors, Pac Ally and Hawaii Energy. And so what we did, I would say over the past year, is we bought a database of manufacturers. We used Dun & Bradstreet, so anybody who's ever dealt with that knows how inaccurate it is. So we spent the last year, if you get the emails, we would appreciate you getting back to us, but essentially we called and emailed people, is this correct? Is this your contact? Because what we're doing is, we put on a database, if you can go to the toolkit. Oh, I'm sorry. So you can go to the website later. There's a toolkit of organizations, you can scroll down, and agencies who are designed to help manufacturers. There's a little X mark. It is subjective. A lot of agencies do a lot of things, but we gave you a little guidance on what we think they do well, because everybody does everything, but what they do well. And then if you can go to the business directory, actually, on top, sorry. And that's the main feature that is part of the portal. This portal has been up for 2 years. We just finished revamping it and adding this feature. So if you scroll down, you can kind of type in an industry, or if you're looking for something. So, I don't know, ice cream. And then you can click, sorry. And it'll kind of show you some of the, and then try to click on say, Blackbirds. Blackbirds just you can scroll down. So it has your information, your contact information, where you're located. So if you want to be found, feel free to email us. If you're go on there, if your information isn't correct, let us know. You can email us. There's our contact information is in the handouts. But we want to, it's an ongoing thing. We're constantly updating it, but we want to use it as a tool for one, manufacturers to find each other, because there's sometimes you're going to be looking for suppliers for your company, but also you would be surprised how often we get requests from outside the state that somebody wants something from here, or they want they're coming here and they have a service, but they need somebody to maintain their product or produce certain things. So. Again, thank you very much for coming. I'm going to introduce Wayne Inoue. Wayne Inoue is the director. Oh, Len, let's go first. Okay, Len Higashi, raise your hand, is with the High Technology Development Corporation, which helps manufacturers, and Len and Wayne are administering the grant, so I'll turn it over to Len. Thank you.
Thanks, Bono. Morning. So first, I just wanted to start off by thank you all for coming here this morning. I know it's early. I know everyone's excited, and I did want to point out we're working a little bit against the clock because we have a hearing. Bono and I have a hearing to go to at 10 o'clock. So we'll keep this moving. My name is Len Higashi. I'm with the High Tech Development Corporation. Also, Innovate Hawaii is one of HTDC's programs, so I'm part of that team as well. And last year, the Chamber introduced this bill, and I wanted to point that out because the Chamber introduced this as part of the business advocacy package and providing matching grants for local Hawaii manufacturers. Most of you know a little bit about it, so I'm gonna push that off till later. But as you may know, HTDC needs to adopt rules to implement the program. And that's what we've been working on for the past year. I mean, it's 8 months now. The process is formal, rigid, requires a lot of approval from a lot of very important people. And we're currently at the last step, which is we're waiting for the governor's final approval. We've gone through process of public hearing, taking testimony from others, and everything is good, and we're excited to get going. The challenge is, the $2 million that we were appropriated last year lapses at the end of this fiscal year, which is June 30th, which puts HTDC and Innovate Hawaii under a lot of pressure to get the applications processed quickly, puts you under a lot of pressure to get us the information and applications for the grant quickly. So that's why we've been doing a series of events of outreach and information sessions like we are this morning. So with that, I'd like to encourage you all to apply and to work with us. We've also recruited partners in this, and so Joe and Lori are here from the Oahu SBDC. SBDC will help you go through the application process, format it in the way that the evaluation committee wants to see, and really, as Pono said, make your case for why this is important for Hawaii's future. And the one tip that we offer everybody is, this is an economic development grant, which means we're looking for metrics like revenue growth, tax growth, jobs. You know, those are things that are important to the state, and that's why the state is doing this. So as you fill in the applications, I ask you to think about putting yourself into the evaluation committee's shoes and think about what they're looking for. And I just told you what they're looking for. So if you can do that, that will help us help us process the grants quickly and get the money encumbered. Pono talked about two bills that are out there this session. So the appropriation last year came in for $2 million. There's a House bill that's out right now that's looking to renew that funding for the upcoming fiscal year, so starting July 1st up until next year, June 30th. And so it's very important for all of you to go and talk to your legislators, your district representatives, and let them know who you are, why this is important, what you're doing. In conversations with economic development chairs, they always ask us, you know, who's doing this, is this real? And we tell them there's so much interest, but you know, we don't go in and name names and we don't talk specifics because that's your business. But you can. So if you want this and you want to see it continue, I strongly encourage you to work with your representatives and senators and let them know how important this is and how this is good for Hawaii. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Wayne and Aaron. We're going to talk a little bit more specifics about the application process and what we're looking for. Thank you.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Dan. So again, my name is Wayne Inoue. I'm the Senate Director for a federal program called the Manufacturing Extension Program. We are an attached program to the High Tech Development Corporation to support the manufacturing industry of Hawaii. So let's get into the grant. But before we start, is for people here this morning, is this the first time, anybody first time has zero knowledge about what this grant is about? Okay, all right, so we will go into a little bit about the grant, about actually what the purpose is for. Like Glenn had mentioned, it is an economic development grant. Basically, this grant is here to support you as a manufacturer, grow your business, get more employees, get more equipment so you can make more products. If you look on what the mission of the grant is, the mission of the grant, again, is basically targeted to 4 buckets. And basically what you can use this grant for, how to qualify. So the first bucket is equipment. Anything that is process-related equipment to your manufacturing process. Mixers, dryers, sewing machines, mixers, I guess. So anything related to a processing equipment is considered equipment for the grant. The second bucket is training. So if you have a brand new piece of equipment and you have to send your employees or you have to fly somebody in to train your employees on that equipment, that is also covered as well. Okay. The third bucket is energy efficiency. So you as a manufacturer need to save energy, you go out and you hire possibly a company like Hawaii Energy to do an energy efficiency audit. That will also cover. So anything related to maybe upgrading your motors or your boilers, some of that stuff. Renewable energy, unfortunately, does not cover. So it will not cover PV, it will not cover solar water heaters, that type of stuff. So purely energy efficiency type of equipment. And the third bucket, or the fourth bucket, is feasibility for expansion. So as a manufacturer, you are thinking, okay, I'm at my limits of what I can produce. I want to maybe expand my facility, or I want to possibly buy a new facility or move into a bigger facility. The feasibility study to do that, to go out, hire somebody to say, okay, this is worth it for my business to go out and expand. That type of cost is also part of what you can use the grant for. So basically those 4 buckets. And again, you know, the whole purpose of the grant is economic development, right? They want the business to expand. They want you to go out, hire more employees. They want you to train your employees to get more pay. So, hence, you know, that's the reason why we have this grant, again, is economic development purposes. We will go into a little bit more questions, but again, just real brief. If anybody has any questions right now, real quick, just on the 4 buckets before we get into the process and the requirements of what you can use the grant for.
Okay. Talk about equipment generally, but we're talking about packing equipment, all the other stuff that goes with it, you know, all the tooling as far as your stands, the bags, all that kind of stuff, is that something that's all considered equipment?
Usually, like the bags would not be qualified, so it's purely equipment. So kind of, how I explain it to some people is if your product touches that equipment as a processing equipment, then it should qualify. So the bags isn't usually considered equipment, it's just part of your product. So, yeah.
So, as a manufacturer, can I apply for more than one bucket at the same time?
Good question, thanks. So, as part of the grant, you are able to apply for one grant application per year, well, for this period. So, what we are telling everybody is during the application, you can apply for the 4 buckets. So you total up your equipment purchase, you total up your training, you total up your energy efficiency, all into one application. Okay? And one thing that I forgot to mention is the duration of the grant, right? So the governor actually signed the bill on July 7th of 2015. So anything that was purchased after July 1st is qualified for this program. So as long as you have your receipts, your invoices, and we'll go into that a little bit, will qualify for this. The end date, we have no idea when the end date, right? I mean, right now it's June 31st, end of our fiscal year. Okay, yeah, big thing. The range for the grants. So it's a 20% reimbursable, meaning you as a manufacturer invest X amount of dollars for equipment or one of these 4 buckets, the program will reimburse you 20%. The minimum investment per the manufacturer is $7,500 to get a $2,000 reimbursement. $7,500 to get $2,000 back. Or $1,500, sorry, yeah. And then the upper scale is $500,000 to get $100. So again, a combination of those 4 buckets add up to somewhere in that scale. All right. So we'll go into a little bit more of Q&A and what the grant's for, what qualifies for it. But before we do that, I'll turn it up to Aaron. Aaron will kind of go over some of the requirements of what you need to prepare in order to apply for the grant. And we can just go over the application real quick and we can take questions. Okay?
Hi, good morning. Sorry about that. My name is Erin Furuichi, and I'm the program coordinator with Innovate Hawaii. As Wayne mentioned, in this section, we'll just kind of go over the basics of what's required, how do you get to the application. It's located off of our main website. So I think if you go to htdc.org, this is our main website, grants over to the left, and manufacturing assistance, you just click on that, and we'll go back to takes us to the page that we were just on. This is the main manufacturing assistance program webpage. And it'll tell you, first off, the requirements. Right now, as far as items 1 and 2, we're asking that your business is registered in Hawaii. You can supply a certificate of good standing and also your tax clearance. Right now, we're waiting for the state comptroller's approval to just accept these 2 items. What we strongly recommend, though, for now is that you apply through the Hawaii Compliance Express. It's the asterisk item under number 3, HCE, to get your certificate of compliance, because that one certificate will cover both 1 and 2. And if we have any updates on those 2, the requirements, we'll definitely be sending out an email to let everybody know. Those 2, though, you were asking for the certificate of good standing, tax clearance, and the 3rd item, in order for us to create an account to issue the grant checks in our state system, we need to be able to create an account for your business. So we're asking for a blank invoice or blank or voided invoice or letterhead that will show your business name and your address. What we need on the form is also your federal tax ID number or social security number if you don't have your federal tax ID number. And all of these documents, you'll have an opportunity to upload them on the application form. So those are the requirements, and then you go ahead and click Start. And that will take you to the online application form. So this is what it looks like, and like Wayne mentioned, we're just gonna briefly go through the sections, and then we can do question and answers after we're done. Wanted to stress that we're able to accept the applications, so you can complete the applications and submit, but until we get that final approval from the governor that we have our rules adopted, we are not processing the applications yet. But we strongly encourage that you go ahead and fill out the applications, get it to us, because as soon as we get the approval, then we're gonna go ahead. We really want to go be able to issue out the grant awards.
Question about the grants. When I spoke to one of your folks, I asked if you have to already purchase or can you purchase in the future. Is that so? How is that spelled out exactly? If it's for a future purchase, you have
Right.
a purchase order ready for a product, you get a grant, you can apply to that.
Yeah, then you would enter the information on the form. So either, you could be reimbursed if you've done your purchase after June 1st of 2015, or you're planning to purchase, you have your quote, or you have your information. We have the fields on the form where you can fill out that information.
But you will not get a check until you actually purchase that equipment. We can start processing your application, but you will not receive the grant check until everybody has it.
So really quick, the first section, it's pretty straightforward. Company information, just tell us about your company. And I'm gonna scroll down.
One thing I
Oh,
just
yeah,
wanted to mention, sorry, real quick. When you go back, one of the key things to identify yourself as a manufacturer is the NIST codes, which is the North American Industry Classification Code. You as a manufacturer, normally when you register for a business, they will ask you what is your identification code. It's usually a 31, 32, 33, or if you're an R&D research manufacturer, a 54172 number. So, hence, it does not need to be your primary industry code. So if you're a distributor for one, but you do value-added manufacturing, as long as it's in there as a secondary or tertiary code, you'll be fine. So manufacturing, for some of you, may not be your primary industry or part of business. So, but as long as it's in there, you'll be okay. The other one is your DUNS number, right? So when we talk about the DUNS number, that's a requirement, again, to our process, just to make sure, doing the check and balance, that you are a registered business and a manufacturer. So just wanted to clarify, those are two points.
Those are two very important parts of the application. And yeah, the link up there, look up your NICS code, will help you to search for the appropriate code that matches your line of business, and then the DUNS number, the DNB below. If you have any questions, you can email us. Let's see. Second section is more about the grant information, what you'll be using the grant for, why it's needed, and timeline of how you plan to spend the grant money. Cost breakdown following that. So that's the equipment, the training, the 4 buckets that Wayne had mentioned, the costs of the project. And you also are able to upload, if you have a loan approval, letter from your bank about how you'll be providing the portion from your company portion for the grant. Grant justification after that, the benefits to your company, new markets, new products, and as well as a forecast for company growth. Or we ask for a 3 years forecast. After that is the use of the manufacturing grant funds and describing how the money will be used, and as much information as possible in these sections here, and you can actually scroll down choose from the 4 buckets. If you're asking for funding for more than 3 sections, you can add more at the bottom. This section here, upload supporting documentation, so quotes, receipt, invoices, all that will help our committee to make the decision on your application. So you can upload documents there. Company financial information to upload, and again, it is confidential. We do keep the information confidential. And this section on where I was talking about earlier, the requirements. So this is where you're able to upload your documents, certificate of good standing, tax clearance, or if you already have your HCE compliance certificate or will be getting that, this is where you can upload it to your application form. As well as the company letterhead or blank invoice. And coming down near the bottom of the application form, it's just a checkoff of how our program might be able to help you. And also important to note is the agreement here. We do ask that you participate in our HCDC Annual Economic Impact Survey, as well as our federal program survey for a period of 5 years. And from there, it's just a complete application and submit. And then we can send you a confirmation that we've received your application. Again, right now we're just receiving the applications in, and then we'll go ahead and process as soon as we get the final approval. So I think that's about it as far as the application forms, and we're saving the question and answer for this next section. I'm going to turn it back to Wayne. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Erin. Like Erin mentioned, is do it now, right? I mean, the applications are out. Don't wait until next month. Do it now, because we have no idea when. We're hoping that the governor will sign this bill into action. We do a 10-day public post. On the 11th day, our plan is to do a review committee and process whatever applications. We've already received that handful already, so. Our recommendation is it's out, get it going. If you have questions, let us know, but try not to wait, because again, we have, we're under a real tight deadline of when we can get these funds back to you. So the recommendation again is, get it into us. And if you have any questions about the applications or even the HCE stuff, right? It's not, we're going through this process right now with the comptroller to make the requirements a little bit less stringent. Make it easier for you to apply, but right now it's highly recommended that again you do get the HCE compliant certificate. Again, key dates to remember: anything purchased after July 1st. Key date. Right? So if you made an investment, training, energy, 2015, right? So key date to remember. I guess we'll open up to questions. Answer. Okay, so like I mentioned, right, the deadline is when we run out of money, or June 31st, our end of our fiscal year. Well, that's when the money lapses, right? But you gotta remember, it's gonna take at least 4 to 6 weeks to process the application, right? So again, there is really no deadline. It's just ASAP, right? It was a good thing if we run out of money, but again, there is no deadline. It's just ASAP.
So it's first come, first served.
Kind of, sort of, right? I mean, again, our goal is to get you the funds, right? So you can go back and you can go buy equipment, right? So,
I just want to make the point, and I think Wayne said it, and I'm going to say it again. We're encouraging people to apply now, get your applications ready now. We haven't even received formal approval to start the program, but we're already opening up the applications, because we want you to work on it now, and we want you to be prepared now. Because if you give it to us too late, and you guys all know how the state works, right? There's all kinds of formal things that we need to do, and we get caught in the back end, we're gonna be stuck and our hands are gonna be tied, and you're gonna be frustrated. So all we can do, and the best we can do, is to open the application for you now, let you prepare your application, and when the time comes, you get it into us, we'll review it as fast as we can, and then the program will work. You'll be happy and we'll be happy. That's why I'm asking, we're not gonna offer a deadline because some things are outside of our control. Once it goes outside of our agency, we can't, I can't just go over there, Wayne, hurry up, Wayne, hurry up. There's a lot of other people in the process that have priorities and different things to do. So I hope that answers the question. I hope that we're very clear and strong on that point.
Sorry, order the equipment like March 2015 in service is not until like August.
When did you take delivery of the system?
Well, I'm just everything.
So right now it's going to be after July 1st. 2000 that you take.
Even if it wasn't in service at that time, based in service.
So the best way is, again, if it's going to be to the discretion of the committee, but you would need to just, justify when your initial purchase and when you take delivery and when you put it in service. I mean, right now it's hard for me to say yes or no. It would be to the committee's discretion whether, it would be allowed or not.
Yeah, so the short answer is make your case, right? Make your case to us, to the evaluation committee, why this is beneficial. And then if you keep in mind, if you put on the hat of the evaluation committee and they have, over $2 million of qualified applicants, some that might fall off the edge might be the ones that we're gonna buy the equipment anyway because they didn't incentivize them. On the other hand, if they have money to put to work, still have money to put to work, they don't, none of us or none of the evaluation committee wants to let this opportunity go by without doing everything we can to use, put the funds to work. So, you make your case, and we'll just leave it at that. Sure.
Some capital improvements that are specific to that equipment, small,
So the question is, can we include capital improvement? And the short answer is no, we're not doing construction. It's got to fall under those 4 buckets. And it's got to be manufacturing equipment, it's got to be training, it's got to be feasibility study, and it's energy efficiency. So if it's not one of those 4, it's not going to work. We don't have the evaluation committee, and I'm not on the evaluation committee, but I'm just pointing to myself. The evaluation committee, they don't have discretion on stuff like that. Those things are codified in law. So if it doesn't fall into those 4 buckets, then they're not eligible. That being said, make your case. If you're talking about, and I don't want to use examples of what the evaluation committee would approve because I don't know. But if I were a manufacturer and I had, I'm building a custom thing right here that is a custom drying rack that's part of my, beef jerky manufacturing process, and it's custom built, but it is a piece of equipment, I would make my case and say why. And so I think that's how we've been answering the questions that have come in, which is there's only 4 things that are eligible. It's got to fall in those 4 buckets. The evaluation committee doesn't have any ability to say, oh, but this is a good project, so therefore they can't do that. But if you make your case and you make it easy for them and they can understand it and it falls into one of those 4 buckets and you feel like it should fall into one of those 4 buckets and you make your case why, then they can do their job.
If we have a purchase that's already been consummated, equipment is installed, the training was conducted, and we have an additional purchase of additional equipment for a separate operation, can these 2 projects be included as in one submission?
You may have mentioned software. I haven't heard that it is, but I haven't heard that it is software that it works with your production equipment.
Yeah, I mean, software is that's a good question. That's a FAQ type question, where we're not talking about software specifically, but we're talking about equipment, manufacturing equipment, and sometimes the software is the it's integral to running the equipment. So you can't use the equipment without the software. Make your case, explain it, help the committee understand. You have to understand a lot of applications are going to come in, and the committee is going to be reviewing these things quickly. So you need to really be specific and explain how it's integral to the manufacturing, and you can't use the equipment without it. If you take that approach, then the evaluators will have an easier time. Otherwise, they'll come back to you with questions, or worst case, they would disallow it.
As far as equipment, we have a lot of Asian market equipment that are we restricted to buying, where are we buying from in that sense? And also, what about used equipment? A lot of used equipment out there that's available. Is that all new purchase or does it encompass?
Okay, good questions. The questions are where the equipment is sourced from, and are used equipment allowed, and the answer to both are they're both eligible.
Can you get into the fourth bucket a little more, the feasibility study?
So the feasibility study is, as a manufacturer, if you are looking to expand or go to a new location. Normally when a manufacturer wants to go into a new place, they do a feasibility assessment, square footage, energy, do I have enough space, how do I lay it out? So it's a very generic term when we say feasibility study, but again, it's a study to make sure that you are capable of moving or expanding your business to a new location.
So the grant will help fund the study?
Yes, yes. It'll fund the study, not the brick and mortar. Yeah.
If I could add a few points that I thought of as Aaron was reviewing the application. When we're asking for the attachments, which, for example, if you're buying a piece of equipment, we're asking you for the catalog page, which includes the price, so that we can see what the equipment is, understand what it does. You explain why that's important to you and how that helps you, be competitive in business. If you think of it, again, from more of an accounting standpoint, like your accountant probably asks you for justification. This comes up especially like for used equipment. We don't want people going and buying used equipment from their friends and paying them 10 times market value. So you're going to need to show, when you get into the more complicated cases like used equipment, you're going to want to show that this is a great deal. It's a year old and new, it costs X, and here now I'm getting it for 50% discount. Then the people reviewing it will look at it and say, wow, that's good. We're getting even more economic development bang for our buck, and they'll look at favorably, as opposed to, wow, this guy's paying 200% on market rate. I think that this is, I don't think this looks right, so we're going to disallow it. If you help us do our job, then I think the program will be successful, and I think the strong commitment Hawaii manufacturers are making. They're putting up 75% of the money, 80% of the money, and the state is matching with 20% to help you be competitive. That's the story that the Chamber's been telling the legislature. That's the story we've been echoing that sentiment. That's the story that we encourage you to say, and it's the story we believe. So, we hope this grant will be done responsibly, and you make our jobs easy and prepared for audit and all that good stuff. So, any other questions? Good question. So if you're purchasing equipment and it's not made here, which is likely, you have to get it here, and that's part of the process. And so you want to show how that yes, shipping is eligible you need to explain it and you need to show invoices and receipts accordingly. One other, oh, go ahead.
If we had a project that started before the law was signed or the money was allocated, but didn't finish so well after.
I think that was the same question that came up a little earlier, which is something that started before July 1st, 2015, but the project is still in play, or you didn't do your invoice and do your payment until after. I think you want to make your case. We encourage you to apply, and you're going to make your case on why that's important and why the state should match that. Again, it's up to the evaluation committee, and it's going to depend on how many applications, but we're encouraging those type of projects to apply. One other FAQ type question. Yeah, we receive emails, inquiries. SPDC is always knocking on our door saying we're working with these people doing this. Some people were asking about background information and how much information, because I could give you my annual report for the past 10 years and you'd be flooded. Again, if you wear the evaluation committee hat, they're not looking for essay, they're not looking for style points, they're looking that the money is being deployed responsibly. So it's a good company that has potential for growth, that's doing good things in Hawaii. And it makes it, so short and sweet is what I'm saying. And think about what the evaluation committee will be looking for and spoon feed it to them.
Okay, going back to the used equipment, and you said to include the website pages that shows prices, stuff like that. What you want to see a brand new pricing versus, you want to see both, you think, or just the used pricing and us telling you what the new thing is?
If it were me, I would show why it's a good deal. So I would show both.
Yeah.
But it's up to you. I mean, it's going to be up to the committee. If they see that this is market competitive, that's probably all they need to know that it's eligible. But if I'm trying to make my case, I'm going to show this is market competitive and this is what I'm getting off of new price.
I didn't want to flood.
Yeah. Again, be succinct with the information and provide the committee with information that's relevant. Don't provide them the backstory behind this equipment. Just provide them with the key points because,
And only the facts. Got it.
yeah. Thanks.
So say you're approved and you get your reimbursement, what happens after? Do you have to show later down the line that what you said you were going to do really counted?
Good question. There is follow-up. I'll let Wayne talk about follow-up.
Yeah, so the follow-up is basically after you get your equipment, through our program, we will be following with you every 6 months, probably up to 3 years. So what we're trying to avoid is a company going out buying a $10,000 equipment, turning around the next month, selling it, pocketing the grant, right? The state's not gonna let us do that. And I'm not saying that you guys would do that, but again, we don't know how, that's why hence the questions to get all, your background information and all that stuff. So we will follow up with you.
I think why I ask is we've gotten involved in programs before, and it seemed like the follow-up was worth more than the money that we got because of all the reporting required. So I'm concerned it's gonna bury us in paperwork.
It's not anything. Basically, it's a visual, right? We just want to make sure that we look at your application, we see that the machine's in use, and you're saying that you're using that equipment for what you're saying.
What about the things that are intangible, like training and all that stuff?
That part is subjective, right? We're not going to go to your training, we're just obviously going to take your word that you did the training.
Real quick, just you saw there in follow-up that we're going to keep doing these MEP surveys. So quick hand for somebody who's done an MEP survey before and reasonable, within the scope of business, worth it, not worth it.
It's reasonable, Ken. We do have to spend some time.
So we don't want to be misleading. We are asking for that's how our program gets judged. So Innovate Hawaii gets federal funds. We need to show that we're making an impact on Hawaii and Hawaii manufacturing. And same for HTDC. We're receiving this money from the state we're getting judged by how well the businesses are doing. So every year there will be surveys. They're going to be online. Wayne talked about the in-person follow-up just to make sure the equipment's still installed. Those come up as well. But the surveys are real, and I think if you're doing, keeping your books, then the information kind of flows out naturally. But it is a commitment. Acknowledge that. One other point on the training. This was brought up by a legislator, so I just wanted to make this clear. Training is by a third-party provider. So this is not for you to ask your manager to go train your employees. That's not an eligible expense. This has to be, I'm bringing somebody in to train on this piece of equipment because this is a new piece of equipment, or I'm bringing somebody in to train on operations because that's what we need, this, to lean this, sorry, I'm starting to use words that I probably shouldn't use, but to train on this piece of equipment, okay? So, with that being said, sometimes you need to go there and you need to travel, and those are still part of training expenses. This opens up a big gray area, and so with the training in general, we're going to be asking for more information than equipment, which is a lot easier to understand. And again, if you understand our jobs, when the auditors come in, they're going to know, how do you know this is eligible? Show me the training, show me the travel expenses and stuff like that. So.
How about service contracts or extended warranty that comes with the equipment? Does that qualify?
Is it part of purchasing the equipment?
It's not necessary, but it is an add-on.
So buying a piece of new equipment with warranty, or are you talking about stuff you've had for the past 30 years?
Specifically for the equipment, extended warranty or service contract on that equipment.
That's a good one, and I think that's an evaluation committee question, so I would encourage you to include it.
I just want to add in to what they were saying about the issue of the metrics and what you're going to be asked for. So how in part we came up with the bill and the 4 buckets is, for those of you who participated, thank you very much. 2 years ago, we hired Warren Research to do an inventory assessment of manufacturers in the state. We sent everybody a survey, electronic link to fill online. Several things came up. Obviously, the cost of capital equipment puts you at a disadvantage. Energy, the cost of energy, by far, that was the #1 issue. Obviously, the training on the equipment, because most of you, if you're bringing in heavy machinery, you have to bring in somebody to train on it as well as to install it. So that was in part our focus. Also, right, if you're going to expand, how to do the feasibility study. The point, the point I want to make is this. Like we said, and they said, ask for what you need, let the committee tell you no, be creative. But the one thing we do want to emphasize is the chamber did go out on a little bit of a limb to ask legislators that, ask legislators, trust us. There was a lot of skepticism. How many people heard of Act 221? It's a high technology development credit. State spent almost $1 billion on it to develop the innovation economy. It's still going on, et cetera, et cetera. Some legislators, not the greatest taste in their mouth that they issue. That's why this is a grant program. It's not a tax credit. You have to go through a process. There might be some getting stats on the back end. How many new people did you hire? How much did it increase your sales? How did it expand your market share? We hope you will help the agency provide that story, because we don't want this to be a one-time deal. I don't think you want this to be a one-time deal. For some of you, you might be in the middle, you might buy small equipment now, but your big overhaul might not come till another 2 years from now. Hopefully you want to help us help you continue the program. And that's what we would, in keeping in mind as you go through this process, that we are not looking at this as a one-off deal. And we don't want to make the legislature, on behalf of us, we all pay taxes, feel like they got sold a bill of goods, that somebody racketeered the system, for lack of a better word.
So, when we're talking about the manufacturing grant piece, getting equipment to be able to make stuff, one of the problems Hawaii has is getting stuff out of here at reasonable cost. And that's probably the other part of that equation. If you get beyond making something of a certain size, and the cost becomes ridiculous to get it out and go somewhere else. And it has to touch the mainland. You can't ship directly to Asia. So we have some of these issues that are legislatively or tying our hands to being able to do certain things. So is there something looking in that direction also to assist in getting stuff off of that?
So not from a subsidized standpoint, but we do have a manufacturing in Hawaii group, a committee. You do not have to be a member of the chamber to join. We would appreciate it, but we are setting up a logistics program seminar, hopefully in mid-late spring, where we're bringing in Matson and some of the other shippers to come and talk to manufacturers, because that was the other thing in the study. I'm not saying we are going to solve the issue, but we are bringing it up to make sure that they understand some of the concerns for logistics, especially on the shipping out, right? We always hear the story, the ship comes in full, but it leaves half empty. Why not? Blah, blah, blah. But every business has their business model, right? And we all don't like other people telling us how to run our business. We all have a financial interest. So that's where it's going to get, right, the discussion, right? So with that, and if you have more questions, Wayne and Aaron will be around. But a couple of things I did want to mention. I did membership. I'm going to give a quick plug. If you want to join the chamber, we would really appreciate it. We're still going to continue our efforts to help manufacturing, but one of the things that we do on behalf of the broader business community as well is we do business advocacy. We are constantly at the legislature trying to push good bills like this, but also fight off bad bills. I don't know if anybody realizes, but there are 3 bills moving to raise the general excise tax to 6%. How many people knew that was going on? So we testify, we talk to legislators, trying to explain, also on regulations, things that make you as a manager more difficult to employ. We constantly do that. We also do a whole host of other programs. If you're interested, here's our contact information. You can email us if you're interested. We would appreciate your support. But again, thank you for coming, and I'll turn it back to Wayne and Aaron. Lynn and I have to go back. In fact, the hearing that we're going to is to extend the manufacturing program, the grant program, the $2 million. So thank you.
So then, thank you very much. We have our staff here.
Yeah.
We will have our Innovate Hawaii staff and the chamber staff. So if you have any questions, additional questions, please come up to us and let us know. We have our email. I think it was on, what is it? mfggrant@htdc. It's right on the bottom, MFG Grant. If you didn't feel comfortable answering or asking a question, just email us and we will get back to you. But again, thank you very much. And again, special mahalos to Pono and Jenny from the chamber. Again, without their support, we would have never got this far for manufacturers. So Jenny, Pono, thank you very much.